Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is PJ, and I'm sitting here with somebody very, very dear to me, somebody that has helped me a lot. This gentleman right here to my right, Mr. Tom Bowman, is my Qigong teacher, Qigong Sifu. And today we're going to talk about what is Qigong. I'm going to talk about also a little bit about how it's helped me. My Sifu Tom is going to talk about the benefits of Qigong that people can experience, that you can experience in your life if you start implementing Qigong into your day-to-day life. And then we're going to give a little bit more of a general information on Qigong, and hopefully you find this video helpful and it's something that maybe sparks an interest within you, and you maybe take on Qigong for yourself and try it out and give it a try. So Sifu, by the way, Sifu means teacher in Chinese medicine, right, in martial arts. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your name, when did you get into Qigong, how did that introduction come about, and why do you think you were drawn to study Qigong?
Oh, well, that's kind of a long story. I'll try to shorten it up a bit. Chinese martial arts have, since my early years, I can't even tell you, it just seems like it's been in my mind forever, but Chinese martial arts, Chinese medicine and all that has always been a part of my life, believe it or not. I grew up in Peru in South America. And believe it or not, there was a big influence there by the Chinese community. In addition to that, my mother was very much into this type of healing and things like that. And that followed me, and then I came to the United States. And out of nowhere, I just decided it's time to learn Kung Fu. And I found a school, a very traditional Kung Fu school. I did not want any wash down. I was just rather not do it than get that, but I found a very traditional school and learned Kung Fu in a traditional way. And that led to, and I'm paraphrasing, Megan, trying to not bore anybody, but that led to one day going to a bookstore and being drawn to the alternative, at the time referred to as alternative complementary medicine. And I kept going to this one book. I could put it down. I did that a total of 3 times. The 4th time I bought the book. Yeah. And the book was about Qigong. And that was the day and that was in 1997 maybe. And that was the day that my whole life changed. Yeah. Wow, it really was. And
I was 4 years old, isn't that crazy?
Oh boy, you would say that.
And so, first of all, let me say this too, that you own a school here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where we're located, right. Qigong of Tulsa. You do treatments, you do classes here for groups. And because that's a big jump from finding a book to becoming a teacher yourself, to really going into it as deeply as possible, as deeply as you have. You've been now studying Qigong for 20 plus
23 years.
And how long have you been teaching it for?
Probably 21-ish of those. Yeah.
So you very quickly went from being a student to wanting to teach it as well.
Yes.
What was it about your experience with Qigong and the impact of that book on you that made you want to not just be someone who does this for themselves, but someone who shares this with other people?
The real, and it's it's a difficult thing to put into words, but there was this thing about me that made me very comfortable with what I was reading. In addition to that, the gentleman that wrote the book, Wong Q Kit, is also from the same Kung Fu clan that I'm from. And we just hit it off, not just reading his book, but we hit it off, at that period of time. It was emailing back and forth. And it was amazing what he told me about myself. So it just kept growing. I felt very comfortable. And this was the issue. I felt very comfortable with myself. Hey, I'm doing something I'm supposed to be doing. a lot of us go through life and we wonder, what it is.
Yeah, what is our purpose?
Yeah, it's like I was telling you the other night, there's 2 dates in your life. One, of course, is the day you were born, but the other one is the day you find out what for, and that's a Mark Twain quote. But it is just the epitome of what really your life's about. Once you know why, your whole world changes, your whole world opens up. You feel better, you're calm, you accept things the way they are and don't accept the things that don't belong to you, around you. It is an amazing thing. It is totally amazing.
Yeah. It's almost like I personally experienced this, and this ties into very well with kind of how I got introduced to Qigong of Tulsa, but I came to experience like as if there's 2 paths. The path that you're meant to be on, the path that is for you, that on a super high level, you chose before you even come into this world. It's almost like you chose to be Tom, I chose to be PJ because of that path. I was meant to walk down that specific path. And for most of our life, we go through life walking on a different path, a path that is not meant for us. And it seems forced, it seems like a struggle, but we also don't, because we don't know anything other than it doesn't seem weird. But there's deep down, there's like a feeling of offness about our life. Things seem fake, like they're not ours.
Right.
And then you find that path. Some people come to that path through meditation. Some people, I personally came to it through meditation. When I started meditating in 2016 and I made it a commitment that I'm going to meditate every day, at first it was obviously super difficult, but over a period of two months of doing that, I started really getting in touch more with like who I'm meant to be in this life and being okay with that and not shutting myself down when I think about who I feel like I'm meant to be and saying, no, that's not you. That's not how other people see you. Right. So anyways, I started walking and starting to take one step at a time on the path that I feel like I'm meant to be on. And meditation for me was kind of a gateway into that, but for a lot of people it may be a rock bottom moment. It may be a super, bad moment in their life where things seem to fall apart. And I honestly think 2020 collectively was that moment for a lot of people where things that they were used to start falling apart, and in the absence of those they start encountering questions such as like, who am I, what am I here for, why did I come here for, and those kind of questions. But basically, as I started meditating, I started having these synchronicity moments, these moments of like just like a breadcrumb of like, oh, just follow this trail. And I was walking down this shopping center that your school is located in, and I wasn't even here for that. I was here for something else. But I just saw the word meditation on the window here, and I was like, wow, a place in Oklahoma talking about meditation has a center for it. And I walked in, and luckily you were here, and we just had a conversation, and I came to class that night. I was really intrigued by what Qigong is, and now it's like 5 years later, I'm still here. And it just is one of those things that keeps growing in you and like just itself. It's such a deep thing to get into, and like just like meditation, it's not like there's a point that it ends and then you're done. It's just like brushing your teeth. Like you never get to the end, the last day you have to, the day, you're like, right, if I brush my teeth 1,000 times, then I won't have to brush my teeth anymore. It's never like that. And Qigong is the same way. I came to learn that you have to keep working at it. But let me talk about how you feel like you started getting on that path in your life, because prior to that you were an engineer, a
mechanical designer.
Okay.
Because I varied, my job duties varied at times.
Okay.
So.
And then you got into what at the time was called alternative medicine, and it's just such a big jump from who you were, the path you were walking down, to the path of your purpose. Why do you think you were so comfortable making that jump, knowing that you have had built this identity that was completely different than who you are now? How did you justify that for yourself?
It's a real good question, because if you and I have talked about how do you know when you are following the path that you're meant to follow, so you're meant to be on, correct. And all I can tell you is that being drawn, going back to the story about the bookstore, being drawn to that book as strongly as I was drawn to that book, and having had the Qigong or the Kung Fu training going on at that period of time, was an interesting, mixture of things happening. I felt comfortable, felt very comfortable in it. In fact, I had a lady tell me one time, this was years later, she said, in your previous life, you were a Shaolin monk, Oh, whether you believe that or not, it's irrelevant. The relevant point of it is that when I started to think about it, I was like, you know what?
She's spot on.
Well, she's spot on. And it was amazing because, and sticking with it, I had never up to that point in my life ever stuck with something to the degree that I stuck with this. It was crazy. I mean, it was like I was drawn. Whether at that moment I understood what I was learning or not, I couldn't just push it away and let it go. And finally, when I just gave up and said, all right, wherever it goes, well, here we are. So it's released a lot of anxiety that I carried around for the most part of my life. It's allowed me to be who I am comfortable being, which that in and of itself was something that, for those of you out there that have grown up in family situations that are difficult, if you will, becoming yourself, giving yourself permission to be something other than,
Very daunting.
It's daunting, and some people never in their lifetime achieve that.
Yeah.
And what do I attribute that to? The whole process of the Kung Fu to begin with, giving me that inner strength. And I'm saying inner strength. It's not just external, it's inner strength. That's what you need, is the inner strength to just say, wait a minute, this is what I want, even though I've been told I can't.
Yeah.
Or I never will, or something like this. It's amazing, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. That is so true.
It's so true.
It is just unbelievable.
Yeah. And that was something you told me. That was the first I heard that quote from you, or that saying, that way of thinking from you the first time. And I have found that to be so true. And it's almost like, if there's one thing that makes me believe in God more than anything, is how those things happen. How that if it's not by the grace of God that those teachers fall, or the right books, the right teacher, the right YouTube video, the right whatever, just falls into your life that moment, at the right time, the right moment. It's almost like somebody is trying to help you out in this game of life, And so for me, that has been just tested true over time.
Let me interrupt you, but there's one thing, and we've talked about it out on numerous times, is having faith.
Yeah.
You have to have faith. No matter where you come from faith-wise, if you are this type, or you're Taoist, Buddhist, Muslim, Hindu, it doesn't matter. Takes me back to the saying, there's numerous paths up the mountain, but when you get to the top, the view's the same.
Yeah, I love that.
For everybody.
Yeah.
And so it is vital that you become that person of faith within yourself, regardless of what anybody around you is.
Yeah.
Don't let others tell you who you need to be. That's your right to be who you are.
Yeah.
And then understand that once you embark on a journey of learning who you are, understanding yourself, there's no coincidences therein.
Yeah.
The coincidence don't exist.
Yeah.
It's all a pattern, and what does exist is surprises down the road. You go, oh, okay, you know, and it's beautiful.
It is.
It's beautiful. But anyway, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No,
but,
you're good. You're good. So I'm really curious to know, how did Qigong itself, not just not just the breadcrumbs, so to speak, that something bigger than yourself was giving you, not just those synchronicities, but the Qigong practice itself, because it's honestly a lot of simple moves for the most part. You can make it as complicated as possible, or as simple as possible, and when you're doing it, it's not like you're doing a push-up. When you do a push-up, for example, a very physical activity kind of exercise, you immediately feel something. You feel some sort of tension or exhaustion or something. When you do Qigong, just like meditation, in the moment, you may not always see what it's doing for you. But how did Qigong and the exercises in Qigong, how did they create this internal shift for you that, like, I can be this person, I can be this new person, I can be who I'm created to be?
It's an easy question, but then it's not that easy when it comes to explaining what happens to you physically. The thing that you need to understand is that your body, it works on a premise of action-reaction. Everything in our world is an action-reaction. If you're nice to somebody, chances are their reaction is going to be nice in turn. If you're mean to someone, their reaction, chances are going to be mean to you, unless they're a Qigong practitioner who will just kind of look at you, go, okay, and move on. But every action in this creation has an equal or unequal reaction. And that's just the whole thing. They call it yin and yang. We call it radiative and receptive, just to give it better terms. But the thing that we have to take into consideration is that once your body is balanced, once your emotions are balanced, not controlled, and this is an issue that we need to understand. It's kind of like meditation. We don't meditate to control our mind. We meditate so that our mind doesn't control us. Totally different perspective there. Yeah. So once you understand that you don't have to go out there and lift 20 tons worth of weight in order to become strong. You become strong because your body is functioning accordingly, and your slow twitch fibers, fast twitch fibers in your muscles, for example, are operating at their optimum. So what you're doing is you're getting flexibility and getting stronger. There are plenty of women, Chinese women, who practice Chinese martial arts, be it Kung Fu, Tai Chi, and all that. And a lot of people confuse them because they're slender, it's just their nature, but they don't understand they're strong. And there's nothing about changing your natural look that makes you weaker.
Right.
So it's all about how you are internally. Do you understand? I don't mean to say understand, but do you read what your body is saying to you? Do you know how to focus on parts of your body? And this is where Qigong helps you work through it, is how are you emotionally? It doesn't matter if you're male or female. We show it differently. Males show it differently than females. But where are you emotionally? Means a whole lot.
Yeah.
To how your body reacts. Your bioelectric flow is 100% affected by improper emotions.
Absolutely, yeah. And also your organs as well. So one thing I love about Qigong, and this is something that kind of was, again, simultaneously happening in my awareness. I was really big into bodybuilding. Later I found out you were too. And when you're bodybuilding or doing any sort of, honestly, Western just exercise in general, even sports, you really focus on the outer, the performance, and you don't really take into consideration the other elements involved, you know, such as like inside your, like how is your body functioning inside, your organs, your emotions, which play a massive part. Now, you know, like top athletes do consider all those things now, you know, because at that level you do have to be emotionally in check, you do have to mentally be, you know, also fit, and all those things play in together. But one thing that I was so fascinated about with Qigong is that it really takes a holistic, you know, not to throw that term around, but it does take a very holistic, whole kind of view of the human being and the human organism, and honestly even spiritually too. Like it takes into consideration the spirit, the mind, the emotions. You said there's four, right? We talked about this where you said it's like the emotions, the mind, the body itself, and then the spirit.
Okay.
I feel like those are like the four seasons, kind of like the four, you can maybe say like aspects of what makes us us. And Qigong addresses all of those. Hence why the healing that it promotes can be so next level, you know, because you go to a doctor, nothing against doctors or anything like this, is not about that, but it's like, that's a very physical aspect or a very physical approach to healing. Maybe some other people just say, just pray it away, you know, just pray it away. It's all mind over matter. And that also has its validity at some points, just like the Western medicine has its validity at some points. But Qigong says, why not both, right? Like, why not? Let's definitely look at the thoughts, look at the mind now, but also let's look at the emotions. Let's do some movement to help with the healing and all those things. And it makes sense why you had such immense benefits from it, because it was addressing all these aspects of yourself that you may have not been using as much, you know?
Right.
Like, I don't know how your emotional life was prior to getting introduced to Qigong.
Oh, I can tell you that to succeed, even though I worked very hard, when I had a project, I worked very hard to dot all the I's and dash all the T's, and it was a matter of putting together a design that you know worked. First go around, all of that. Yet when somebody came back and said, you know what, you did a good job on that, I was like, oh well, you know, no. Instead of being able to just outright say, well, thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
You know, I had this, oh no, kind of.
Did you feel like you're not worthy?
Sure.
Of that? Yeah.
Sure. You know, and I wanted to be worthy like everybody else. We all want to be recognized or at least accepted, right?
Right.
But that wasn't the case. I didn't allow it. And, you know, as happens all the time, every day, any kind of health provider, be it Western, be it Asian, be it whatever, you know, kind of natural healing or healing device is never going to succeed unless it has 100% cooperation from the person that you're trying to heal, or the patients or the clients, however you want to look at it. It won't happen. Your mind is strong. Your mind is strong. And you can take pills all the time. You can take pills, but if you feel like, well, I'm going to die, trust me, I know from experience, not that I've died, but I've known of people who have actually, you know, worried themselves to death, literally. And that's something that you learn, you move away from when you start sincerely wanting to, you know, change things. Let me make one big statement here. One of the things that I was told at the start of my whole training thing was, from the meditation standpoint, it was made very clear to me, if you don't like yourself or you're unwilling to change, beware of meditation. And as a result of that, you have to decide ahead of time, do you really want to be who you're meant to be? Do you really want to be calm? Do you really want to be at peace? and as a result of your meditation and your work ethics, exercise-wise, you're going to become strong, you're going to become calm, you're going to become one, you're going to become centered. But are you willing to accept the fact that at some point, once you realize, oh, I've done this to people, I did this to somebody, and not be able to forgive yourself, that's when it's going to be an issue. But you need to also remember, anything that happens to you is not going to be a sentence on your life unless you make it so. It's an experience. And once that kind of concept hits people, boy, it just, opens up your whole life.
I was listening to a video this morning and by a gentleman named Phil Gay, is a spiritual teacher online, but he was saying something about how as humans, we're so we say we want one thing, but then we do the exact opposite thing. So for example, we say we want peace, but then we won't forgive. We won't let go. We still judge, all those things. Yeah. And so it's like, you say you want, so I feel like our angels, our guardian angels are looking at us like, it says here that you said you want peace, but then you're not forgiving this person and you're still angry at something that happened 10 years ago. So, how are you going to get there, So I think Qigong, by its gentle strength, and you have to also be very consistent at it, to get the benefits, but it keeps chipping away at those things. Okay, maybe you can't forgive something the moment you start practicing, but keep showing up, keep doing the work, keep putting in the practice, and then over time you may have that one tipping point, that one meditation practice where the tears flow, you finally forgive, you let go of that thing that's been weighing you down, and it's like, wow, that was possible, but if it wasn't for me putting in, and honestly, change can happen instantly, but sometimes it takes, Tony Robbins says, change happens in an instant, but it takes us a long time to get to that instant that when we're ready to finally make the change. It's like, can you quit smoking right now? Yes. But how long is it going to take you to get to the point where you say, okay, I can do it? And so sometimes I honestly think 2020 was a big year for a lot of people in terms of finally hitting that point. There was so much change that for me at least, it did this, where if there's a time in history, or at least since I've been alive, that it's time to make certain changes that I've been wanting to make, it's now. Because everything is changing, now is the right time to change. So Qigong, honestly any other spiritual path, when you're committed to it, not that Qigong is a spiritual path, but it's, in a sense, it's a spiritual exercise as well as physical exercise and all those other things. But when you commit to it, it shows you your blind spots, especially when you're willing to see them, when you're willing to be shown differently, when you're willing to have the light of awareness be shown on those, is that the right? Yeah. Shown on those spots, on those dark spots, and finally you can see them. So it helps you grow in your awareness. How did Qigong help you grow in your awareness on your own blind spots? And were there times where you felt like, oh, I don't have any blind spots, and then boom, Qigong kept showing you there's more for you, there's more of your potential that you can still tap into. How did that happen through Qigong for you?
And that's probably one of the biggest benefits. And I can put it into 4 letters. Fear. There was fear of accomplishment, fear that I couldn't be as effective as my teacher was, or teachers in this case, not worthy of the attention, the knowledge, and all that, but fear of, am I correct, am I not correct, is what I'm doing, what am I supposed to be doing, what are people going to think of me? And that's always the case whenever you find your path, whenever you're on the correct path, those around you, your whole surrounding changes. If you go into that with the fear of your surroundings changing, then you're not going to accomplish it. But if you go into it and have faith, 100% faith that what you're doing is, if it's not your course, but it's still a proper course. So have faith in what you're doing, but have the confidence and the wherewithal to understand that if you need to adjust, you adjust. Not a big deal. But getting rid of fear and all of the things that fear encompasses, like I mentioned, accomplishment, acceptance, rejection, am I worthy of that? And da 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 da, all those things. Fear is the one thing that stops you from becoming, and fear within yourself affects you physically in horrible ways.
Yeah.
So, fear.
That's interesting. Did you always see yourself as a fearful person? Because when you tell me stories about your younger days, you seemed very outgoing, very adventurous, very non-fearful. When I hear those stories, you had so many different interests, like dancing, surfing, all those things. And all of those things, if you were a highly fearful person, I don't know if you would engage in them unless that was putting yourself out there and encountering those fears was your way of validity, like telling yourself and showing yourself that I'm not fearful. Because a lot of times fear makes us do things that seem daredevilish, but it's the fear still that's causing people to jump off some, a bungee jumping or, do some crazy thing. But it's still the fear. It's not true courage. Do you hear what I'm saying? So were you always somewhat a fearful person in your eyes, or was that something that was completely out of your awareness? It was out of your awareness how fear is robbing you from your fulfillment of your potential, or is that something that you always knew and Qigong helped you get rid of it, or Qigong helped you see it first and foremost, and then it also helps you get rid of it?
Well, the fear, you talked about all the things that I've experienced in my life. And I've been very fortunate. I've experienced a tremendous amount of things in my youth, and it's incredible. It really is. I could probably write a book on my experiences from growing up, in Peru, and learning the Inca, the whole, aspect of that kind of thing, and then coming to the States. But what we were able to do, and I say we and the kids that I ran around with, what we were able to do was to get out of our cocoon, if you will. We were able to get out of that even though we knew we had to come back in it. Okay, it was just, and as you grow older, in my case, I became a father. And that was a big, of course, life-changing experience. You're looking at this little baby there and you're going, whoa.
I'm responsible too.
Yeah, it's on me now. And so you grow. The beauty of it is if you can grow without fear, you'll grow much faster. And, anybody who tries to make another individual fearful or feel lesser than themselves, or than the one accusing them, they're always the ones that are in worse shape than you are. But they have to express this in order to make themselves feel better. And that's the whole process, if you will, about people hiding their fears, not looking for that inner peace. Once you find that inner peace, those types of individuals and their agenda don't matter to you. It just doesn't matter. And you learn at that point. You're learning to move on. You don't get sucked into the negativism. You don't get sucked into the constant drama, uproar, and your body starts to relax. The issue that I have with a lot of Western thinking is that they don't treat humility with the power that humility really brings. And trust me, a very humble person is indeed a very strong person. whether it's physical. I know physically strong people, those that taught me Kung Fu and all that are very humble. And that's another thing I look at. I'm allowed to be humble. I can be humble without fear of being taken advantage of. A lot of people live under that fear too. If I don't show strength, I'm going to be taken advantage of. Nah, that's another thing that Qigong brought together. You know, I was asked a question one time, I think I told you, by a chauffeur in Mexico. Hey, how is it that you are so strong, yet you're so humble? And I'm like, where does strong come from? No, he says, you're a strong person, but you're also very humble. And that's when I realized, yeah, that's the same thing I feel from my teachers, who in turn are very humble, but very strong.
Yeah. So you don't want to mess with that person. There's something about them.
Yeah.
But it's almost not like they're not trying to be a bully or like trying to be a strong guy, which oftentimes that's again, it's going back, like that is a fear still dominating that person. Yeah, that's an over compensation for the fear, for sure. Do you feel like you did that for a while, like the overcompensating, which we all did in our younger days, but like the overcompensating behavior to overcome the fear until you, through Qigong, you were able to actually deal with the fear versus, you know, telling yourself, oh, I've dealt with this.
Totally.
Yeah. And do you feel like the fear was affecting your physical health in any way?
Yeah, but when you're younger, you know,
you don't notice it.
You don't notice it. You won't notice it until you get older. But you do, because things that occur, you know, whenever you're sick, whenever your body is sick, you have to take in consideration, and cancer is the perfect one example that I use. You know, cancer's within you long before it makes itself, you know, externally, you know, known. It's the same thing with fear. What fear, the damage that fear does to you is not known for a long time. And anything you do mentally immediately does damage physically. And, you know, that's why we talk a lot. I'm sorry, I didn't have us. But that's why we talk a lot about, you know, in being balanced, physical and mental. You know, flipping, and I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but, you know, when you can remove your conscious mind from your daily continuous activity and for a while there replace it with your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is in charge of healing. Your subconscious mind is the one that's in charge of keeping your body functioning.
Yeah.
And if you never allow your subconscious mind to work in peace, or if we'll say it this way, the more you allow your subconscious mind to work, the healthier you'll remain. Whereas those people, and I was definitely one of them, stuck in the conscious mind, the old see to believe thing. You know, if you're stuck there, you're never interrupting, or you never stop interrupting your subconscious mind. It's trying to work. You're attacked 6 to 7 times in your lifetime by cancer. So why do some get cancer and some don't? It's all a matter of where your body was. See, is your body able to fight that? Well, your ability to allow your subconscious mind to operate without interruption is just critical.
Yeah, so let me ask you, how does Qigong work with the subconscious mind?
How does it work with it?
Because what I'm trying to ask is, like, I know, for example, the way meditation works with the subconscious is that it lowers the volume, so to speak, on your conscious mind so that your subconscious mind can now speak to you more clearly, right? But Qigong also does somewhat the same thing, where it like does, you know, a lot of the moves you have to be very focused. You always say where where the mind goes, Qi goes, right? And Qi is bioelectricity, is always running in our bodies. And it, you know, Chinese medicine has always used the term Qi, but just in the recent years, they've been able to, you know, figure out what Qi actually is, which is a bioelectricity. But in Qigong practice, the mind control of the movement, meaning that like if you're moving your hands like this, you want to have your mind 100% be right there, nowhere else. It's like be exactly in the movement, be very intentional. And then what that also does through movement versus meditation, which is just sitting out, through movement, you start to get the same benefits similar to meditation by just being very focused and intentional on the movement. So your conscious mind is so focused on one point, whether it's, you know, your hands or wherever you're moving, it's so focused on that one point that then it quiets down. You know, it's an interesting thing, and that's something I first experienced only with this, because when I'm weightlifting or doing any other sort of movement, other than sometimes in yoga, which oftentimes we do yoga so fast that you don't get that mind focus kind of thing, at least for me. But Qigong is very slow and focused and very simple to do, the movements. So you have complete, you know, it's easier to focus your mind on one point. And then it leads to your subconscious mind becoming more online, so to speak, because your conscious mind is becoming more quiet. Do you experience this as well? Because that's something I experience with moves.
One of the things that you can't tell somebody, you can't teach somebody, they have to experience, is exactly what you're talking about. The difference between me doing exercises back in 2000 between doing exercises in 2021 is just, yeah. Back then, even going back to 1990 something, you know, back then it was all a matter, okay, I've got to start and I've got to prepare myself. I've got to make sure I have the rules and regulations of things, how I'm going to, you know, the focusing and all of those types of things. Today, as you've seen in class, if we do palms and I'm not careful, I zone out.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of boom, just like that. So the more you do these things, the more you tie your physical and your mental together.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a conscious thought, and all of a sudden your body's ready to go. Let's exercise.
Yeah.
And you don't have to tell it how to focus. You don't have to tell it anything. It's there. It's there to go.
Yeah, what I love about, you know, committing yourself to a Qigong practice versus just like trying it out on a workshop and then never picking it back up again. When you commit to it, it's like learning an instrument or getting better at any sort of craft or anything, right? Like first you have to be very focused, follow the rules, exactly do it right, and then your mind-muscle connection forms after a while. Like I remember hearing Mike Tyson, for a long time, Mike Tyson, after he retired, he wouldn't fight. And he wouldn't even lift weights from what he said, or like work out. Because when he was working out hardcore for boxing, he was in the mindset of a killer, like based in his words, you know? And he was like, I literally cannot even pick up a weight or do some simple workouts and not get back into that mindset of a killer. And he completely wanted to remove himself from who he was back then and how he thought about the world, and like constantly wanting to beat people up and like in his mindset kill people. He was like, I don't want to be that person, so he couldn't even do those activities because it would instantly take him back. Now, on the flip side of that, with these good activities, Qigong, things like that, they can do the same thing with your health. So like you may have a crazy day, a lot of things are going wrong, and then you do the simple carrying the moon exercise or whatever you're doing, right? Immediately, it's just like, boom, you're calm because you have dedicated yourself to doing it methodically for a while. And I think that's the benefit of it, is that honestly, at a certain point with Qigong, you don't even have to do the exercise. You literally can just sit here and think about doing the exercise and get the same benefits. It's kind of like when they did that research of like connecting these like brain scanners to marathon runners and having them just think about running, and that the same exact muscles would get activated as if they're doing the marathon, you know, as if they're running. And it's just amazing the power that the mind has over the body. But I want to go back to one topic because I have made a video on my YouTube channel about this topic, and it just blew up, and I did not expect this to be that popular. And it was a topic of how to handle emotions. And I just feel like a lot of us struggle with handling our emotions because nobody has taught us how to handle our emotions. Like, we haven't had good examples of what that looks like. And you said something that really struck me, and I want to bring more attention to it, and that is, it's not about stopping the emotion, it's about handling it the correct way, or like letting it kind of move through us. What do you know about that? How did that, come about for you? Like, when did you realize it's not about stopping the emotion, it's about dealing with it the right way? How did Qigong help you with that?
Well, as we know, emotions are a part of our being.
Right.
Before we were top of the food chain, it was our feelings, if you will. I hate to use that word because there's more to it than just that, but our feeling, our gut feeling, you're walking down, let's say you're in a forest or you're in the jungle, and the lions are the top of the food chain and you're not, and it's your senses, that gave you that either feeling of fear, feeling of flight, feeling of confidence, I got it, So emotions are a very definite part of our being. If you understand where those emotions come from, then you can understand how to handle those emotions. To accept the fact that you are a being that's not in charge of this world, you are just a being that's a part of this world, kind of gives you the, okay, I'm not in charge, I don't have to worry about this, I don't have to worry about that. You don't. You're not going to affect that much change. You're certainly not going to sit here and say, okay, I want a tree that's outside to fall over any minute now, and go, concentrate your third eye, and that tree's going to fall over. No.
I don't know if you did this, but when I was a kid, I would like hold my hand at a light and just focus really hard and try to make it explode. Because I used to see that in movies, but it never worked. I'm trying to get there still, though. I haven't given up on that dream.
No, we'll work on that.
Yeah.
We'll get you to where you blow a candle out.
Yeah. But keep going down that train of thought. So you realize that like you're not in charge. It's a relief,
Sure.
Emotionally. But you said that it's important to analyze where that emotion is coming from, because one thing I've learned big time recently is that just because somebody says something or does something and then you get triggered by that doesn't mean that they are the cause of that emotion. So let's say you get an email from a customer, right? And they're saying something completely not like they're not trying to say anything. Let's say like they said something about, oh, the light out here is broken. Like let's say the Qigong symbol, the eye is like the light is not working. You can get super mad and super pissed off about that, but they're not actually trying to say anything about your character or who you are, but because you have this emotion of like unworthiness, of shame, of guilt. I'm not saying you, I'm just saying in general example.
Like a screw up?
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. You have those already in there.
Sure.
What they're saying is triggering what's already in there versus being the cause of it. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's like what you said is so important to pay attention to, is that going to the root cause of like, why am I afraid all the time? Why am I ashamed all the time, feeling guilty, feeling angry? Going and finding the root cause of that, which may be deeper than you think, and maybe like you have to really quiet the mind to get to kind of where the dwelling place of emotions are, to figure out, oh, this actually is here because my dad, when I was 5, didn't say he loves me that one time. You know what I mean? Like, and it can go so deep. So that's why it's super important. But how did this topic of emotion is so fascinating to me, but like how did Qigong make a difference for you emotionally?
Believe it or not, with all of the psychobabble that goes on, everybody has a new method. Mm-hmm. The celestial mind, this and this and that. People can take you down a path of brand new science, okay? And then you go into something that's been around 5,000 years. Mm-hmm. proven methods,
Yeah.
right? Time proven, design, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And they tell you, sir, you're just out of balance. And it's hard for us from a Western mind to comprehend the fact, what? Is that all? Is that it? Yes. We see it all the time here. We have people come in, sit down, and tell me all the bad things that are going on with them. And I'm being facetious when I say this, but it's almost like you want to write them a prescription and say, well, okay, it's okay for you to go home and die here, because they have so much wrong. Mm-hmm. And then they join the class in a matter of 2 months. You don't hear all of these previous complaints anymore.
Yeah.
They don't realize it. They don't. In other words, they're not saying, well, I'm not complaining about that, or this isn't hurting, that's hurting. They just, all of a sudden, because they're healing naturally, and they're healing properly. The less you interrupt a healing process with your conscious mind, mm-hmm. the sooner, the quicker, the better, because your subconscious mind knows more than your conscious mind will ever know. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to sit there and take all these lessons, and you need to think about this, you need to move from there, you need to move to this level, this vibration, all you're doing is interrupting the process, because you're, shut up. Mm-hmm. Let your subconscious mind help you get back in balance. Yeah. I didn't spend a lot of money on psycho treatments and all that. Yeah. I did not. I probably should now, but I didn't back then, but I'm kidding. But I didn't spend all that time. I discovered why. I discovered, why. Why was I born? Yeah. And I didn't do that. I didn't need anybody to help me. Mm-hmm. It's go inside. Allow yourself to be who you're supposed to be. Yeah. Allow it to come about.
It's amazing how your health and just overall well-being improves when you do find your purpose. Because before, I feel like I had a sense of purpose in my life. I think I drank more alcohol, I was spending more money, like I needed more stimulation from the outside world to make me feel good, make me feel content. But when you do find that sense of meaning, you're a lot more content with a lot less, because what has become valuable and precious to you is something not of this world, really. Now, it may have an expression in this world for sure, but it comes from, it's a source that's way beyond this world. And it's just amazing how your health improves. Another thing regarding health and the improvement I've received from Qigong and meditation is that I used to be sick a lot in college, just like sore throat and this and that. And through just quieting my mind, my health has improved so much, because it's almost like the body mechanism, the device, the body wants to help you get better. The body doesn't like to be sick. It's like, imagine like you're the body, it's like doesn't want to be sick, it wants to improve. But we are the ones, like our mind, our decision-making mind is the one that, like you said, it stops the body's desire to improve and be better. So it's like, through meditation and Qigong, through just calming down, quieting your mind, your health improves, because you're not stopping and putting a wrench in the body's own healing. And it's just incredible how quickly and drastically your health can improve, your overall well-being can improve by just not interrupting that process. I don't know if you had a lot of health issues prior to practicing Qigong, but like I said, I just used to get cold. Yeah. And it does make a massive difference, even if you're not trying. It's almost like, even if you're not trying to fix one thing, by fixing, just the overall. So the way I'm seeing this in my head, it's like, let's say your car is burning a lot of fuel, and you think that the fuel thing is the issue, but your tires are out of alignment, so you're constantly like burning more fuel than you need to. So you fix the tire, and then like everything else in the car improves, and it's kind of like that with Qigong. You maybe fix one thing, but then everything else improves as well. It shows how connected every part of the body is, and the emotions and the spirit. And oftentimes, kind of go into this section where Qigong starts with, you said it takes into the consideration the whole human, the body, the emotions, the mind, the spirit. But it starts with the body, because it's like if the body is out of homeostasis, out of balance, nothing else really matters. You can do affirmations all day, I am worthy, I am worthy, I am worthy. But if your gut is out of balance, if your gut microbiome, if all those things are out of whack, like none of that stuff is gonna work. So it's like truly Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And that's why self-realization and like spirituality is at the very, very top of that pyramid. And at the very bottom, it's the very, very basic human needs, like shelter, like food, like water, like those things. Because when those are not taken care of, it's very hard to ascend to those levels of realization. And that's why when somebody comes in and they may have a lot of mental issues, you first address the body, because the body and the mind are so connected, right? Is that something that you first think about always, like the body? Let's address the health of the body, the well-being of the body, because once we fix that, a lot of the other elements are going to fall into place. Is that something that Qigong practitioners think
It
about?
depends on the individual.
Okay.
Every case is different. We've talked about this before, but you take breast cancer. Breast cancer obviously affects women more than it does men. However, it affects men too. But one of the issues, in a general way of saying this, the fact that women are more emotional than men leads to issues ending up in breast cancer, because you have meridians and wiring and stuff going through your body, the vessels and the meridians going up through the legs, up through the upper torso and all that. And so if you have an issue with your kidneys, then that's going to affect your liver. The liver's going to affect, the meridian that goes up, next to the breast area. And you have a combination of physical and you have a combination of mental, because on the mental side, if you're not calm, your chest area tightens up. Whenever a muscle tightens up, it tightens up a meridian going through there. And that meridian is connected one end to an organ, the other end to an extremity, hands or fingers or toes. So it's all relevant. If your mind is in trouble, it's going to affect your body. If your body's in trouble, it's going to affect your mind. A lot of people are sick, physically sick, and they're angry because they're physically sick. A lot of people are mentally sick, be it abuse, be it whatever the case may be, and it eventually affects their body. The simplest thing, and we spend it, I did the same thing, we spend a lot of time trying to find the quick answer to what's ailing us, all right? And I'll tell you what the quick answer is: balance. You don't need to know the scientific terminology for this. You don't need to know what magic words these new people come up with to sell you something.
Yeah.
It's all right there. You can fix yourself by yourself if you'll just learn these little processes that have been around forever. Very little is new when it comes to the body. But now you're going to need coaching on how to do it, sure. And you're going to need to continue to do it. But all of this stuff's been practiced before. It's been proven. It's just a matter of taking, and I'm talking, from the emotional perspective and somewhat of the physical. When we get into treating cancer and all those other things that we do here, we're talking a different approach. When we're talking clinical medical Qigong. But when it comes to an individual that generally walks in the street, I am so wound up and I need to exercise and things like that. Balance.
Yeah.
Just get yourself balanced.
Yeah, I mean, and the yin yang symbol itself, which is something Qigong and martial arts in general use, it's it just says so much. You take one simple look at that symbol, and it just becomes more and more meaningful with time too. But I just have it on my wall because every time I look at it, I'm like, it's just a reminder that there's this balance, there's this dance between these two sides, but within each side there's a little bit of the other side, and then the circle that encompasses the whole symbol is what keeps it all together. It's like,
Right.
to me, it's just like, it just says so much, and it's such a great reminder.
You can't have one without the other.
Exactly. You did say something I want to kind of bring back up. You said that it's all about getting the body in balance, getting the mind in balance, and then everything else improves. But you did say that you need help of a practitioner, of a professional, Qigong teacher / Qigong practitioner, not practitioner, but somebody that use medical Qigong and so on and so forth. You need their help to help guide you through these, because it's important to do these things right, and that to learn them right, so that you are getting the maximum benefit from each exercise, and you're just doing it the right way. Just like if you learn doing squats the wrong way, it's so much harder and damaging. It may you may ruin your knees and back and all that stuff, but B, it's so much harder to learn it correctly after you've learned it wrong.
Right.
So let me jump into how me and you are working on a course, to walk those individuals who are very interested in learning about Qigong, practicing Qigong on a daily basis, doing these practices. We are wanting to take a group of people, about 10 to 12, through an 8-week long course that's going to be done on Zoom. And basically it's going to walk, Tom is going to walk us through one of the most well-known Qigong exercises that's called 8 pieces of brocade. But within that and through those sessions, the 8 sessions that we're going to have, we're going to throw in one kind of bonus exercise that's good to do. There's like a general
we're
exercise.
we're going to give you a little extra content. We're going to talk about very simple meditation methods. Nothing complicated, very powerful nevertheless, and that's the beauty of Qigong. What you learn, and that the first exercise you learn is probably one of the most powerful exercises you'll ever learn, no matter how much time you spend. And so show and tell or showy stuff, we don't do that here. We don't do show and tell. What we do is try to give you the best, possible tool that we can, and so that you can go on the rest of your life. Again, one of the things that I want to make sure I bring up is the fact that just because you're not working to a level of pain to gain, we don't play those games. No, we don't play those games here. We know better. Because I can tell you from, as Peshman mentioned, I used to be a bodybuilder, and I can tell you how unbalanced that is.
Yeah.
It's totally unbalanced. I can tell you that now. I couldn't tell you then.
Yeah.
But I'm lucky that I don't have
A lot of
issues, arthritis and things of that nature, because of practicing that in an imbalanced scenario.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, in Qigong, we've got the personal practice, we've got the clinical and medical practice, we have the martial practice, and then we have the religious practice. The martial practice, which is where we come from, if you don't do the opposite, the Kung Fu being yang, and if you don't do the Qigong or the meditation to be yin, you're going to be in trouble. And there's a lot of those Kung Fu masters that are in a world of hurt right now because of the imbalance in their training, which it shouldn't have been. They should know. Any traditionally trained Chinese martial artist will know the Qigong to go along with their martial arts.
Yeah. So basically, I just wanted to. Qigong just has been so helpful for me personally that I basically, spoke to Sifu, and I was like, is there a way that we can partner together and provide people, those who are interested, some glimpse into Qigong, some tools from Qigong that can help them, because there's so much about it that I by no means felt, ready or prepared to come and teach it, but I wanted to partner with you so that you can bring your expertise to those who need it, because they have been so helpful for me, and I knew that they're going to be helpful for others who are interested. So this is the first time you're hearing about that course. If you're interested, please make sure you sign up. There's a link in the description. Sign up for the email list, because to the people who are signed up for that email list, those are the first people that we're going to notify about the course and when it is launched and more details about it. So again, thank you to you for being open and willing to do that, because from what I've learned from Sifu is that Sifu is very, doing things the right way is very important to you. Very, very important to you, because oftentimes, I may be like, I just do this move just like this, and you're like, no, go back, do it again, do it right, because you know how good it is to do it right, how impactful and beneficial it is to do it right, but also how damaging and bad it could be to do it wrong. You know the yin and yang of that exactly. So that's why you emphasize that, and I just wanted you to be the one that guides us and walks us through this, because like I said, it's so important to learn these things right and do them right, and you've had now over 20 years of experience, with Qigong.
Oh, and I've done the wrong too.
Yeah, and you have never really done anything online, and I was like, it's robbing the world to not have your skills shared online and just in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So this is kind of my way of giving back to you and kind of bringing your skills online a little bit for those interested. And yeah, I truly believe that this is so beneficial for you. And if you have watched my other videos on my YouTube channel, like the letting go one, how to handle emotions, and you like those topics, you will love Qigong, because it literally encompasses all of those in one system. So you don't have to go and read 1,000 books and do all this stuff, because this one system, you always emphasize how awesome it is that Qigong is a complete program,
complete medical
set.
system.
Right, complete medical system, whereas some things only focus on the physical, some things only focus on the mental, some things only focus on the spiritual. Really tying it all together in Qigong is just an incredible benefit of Qigong that I love. Do you have any last words, anything about the course, anything about Qigong that you would like to share as kind of like the last section?
Oh, I just, I don't know. I mean, it's something that I treasure. I treasure it. The frustrating thing for a teacher is when he cannot, pass along that excitement, that the feeling that he has for what he does. I can assure you that, as with anything in life, it initially isn't easy. That's why I ask everybody, give this thing 6 months and then make up your mind. But I don't ask that of anybody. Just look at what we got, make up your mind, and I know, no doubt in my mind, with a proper amount of attention, you're going to change your life. I'm almost 70 years old, and there's things that I do that are normal to me that other people my age can't do, and they're just shocked. And I attribute that to my training in Qigong and Kung Fu alike. I'm not bragging, please don't misunderstand that. It's just that because I believed in this, because I took part in this, I'm able to do things today that probably somebody my age can't do. I don't know, but because I feel this way, it's so difficult to try to put the point across to people about something that's called or considered different. It's only considered different because it comes from somewhere else. But everything that you see today, from the modern aspect of things, massage, therapy, Western massage therapy. Gosh, I don't know. Acupressure, reflexology. All of that originated in Qigong 5,000 years ago, or somewhere in there. Acupuncture is 1,500 years younger than Qigong. And so acupuncture has been here for a long time, needless to say, right? Embrace the old and you'll understand the new. The principles that were established thousands of years ago today are used all over the world today. A shaman in South America and I had a long talk. He was up in the mountains in the Inca territory, and I was like, well, in Chinese herbs, we still have to use the yin and yang principle. Otherwise, you'll have a thing like, if you remember years ago, ephedra became a very powerful, whatever it was not a drug necessarily, but they used it a lot to keep your adrenaline flowing and all that, and people were dying. Young people were dying of heart attacks. Well, ephedra, will get your system going, but you can take a Chinese formula with ephedra, which in Chinese is called Ma Wang. You can take ephedra, and if you put licorice with it in the proper amount, it cancels that out and becomes a medicine. But then you have these people that were selling, all these diet pills and all that, putting ephedra in there, no Ma Wang. And boy, you're just like lit. You're wired 24/7. All of a sudden, you run out of gas.
Yeah, it's too much yang, right?
Correct. No yin whatsoever in there. Yeah. None.
Yeah, I feel like just the culture is out of balance. One way or another. It maybe in some cases way too yin, maybe in some cases way too yang. Maybe the pendulum has swung a little bit to maybe a little bit more too yin or whatever. But the idea of balance is so important to have in our own lives, and always think about the balance. And not I'm not saying like astrology is correct or whatever, but I'm a Libra, and the sign for the sign Libra is scale, and so that's something that I always thought about in my life. It's like what, and oftentimes you may not notice the yin and yang in a situation, right? Like you may just think it's just one thing. But to have the idea like in everything there's the yin and yang applied, there's the duality in everything. It really helps you balance your life out in a really good way. And then your mind is balanced, and even the brain is literally two hemispheres, and just so.
Well, let me point something out to you. You're talking about Libra, you being a Libra and all that. There's a church in Israel, in Jerusalem. Mm-hmm. It's the Christian church in Jerusalem. You walk in there, and what you see on the floor are all of the signs.
Wow, really?
Yes. So that is not an anti-Christian or whatever. No, it's real, and it's
for sure
carved in. I don't know what it would. It's in the stone down there.
For me, it's like I just think about people lived thousands of years ago. They had to find a sense of meaning, and these things are symbols, and they do communicate. I'm not saying like every single day like read your astrology report and make sure you're abiding by the rules of that day, but the symbolism and the story, and the fact that like these the Enneagram, for example, is literally 9 different archetypes, or astrology is 12 different archetypes. The Pisces is a mysterious person. It's the person that's like really into like the fairy tales and stuff. The Libra is a sign of the balance. The Leo is a sign of the person who's like a performer, it shows off, and so it's just telling stories. And then you don't even have to go by the signs. You just look at people like, oh, that person has like a Leo vibe to them, or that person has more of a Capricorn. Everything has to be aligned. Everything has to be right, structure, routine, those kind of things. So it's just interesting. But thank you for your time. I appreciate us sitting down and chatting. We do this off camera all the time, for hours on end. So it's cool to be able to have this conversation with you for the audience today. So thank you guys for tuning in. Like I said, make sure you sign up for the description, for the link in the description, the newsletter, to be notified when that course is launched. You're gonna love it. It's gonna be super, super beneficial and helpful for you. Qigong is super simple and easy to implement in your life, but so powerful. So I'm excited to bring that into the world with you, Sifu, and I appreciate your time.
Well, thank you. I do want to emphasize something. When you sign up for this this program, we will have a forum, and I'm not sure how Peshman wants to do it, but I want to make sure that we have a forum through which you can ask questions. You know, we can keep this thing as simple as can be, or if you really want, you know, to get into the theoretical, to the medical, to that sort of thing, we can do that as well. So any question that you would want to ask, why we do this, why we do that, you know, boy, I want you to feel free to ask that.
For sure.
You know, I always like to have a question and answer session, you know, after a talk or a demonstration or something. So, but thank you. And please come by, stop by and visit us. I think you'll really, you know, feel grateful eventually to yourself for doing that, because you're going to learn a lot.
What's your website?
www, I don't know if you need to say that anymore, but it's Qigong of Tulsa, all one word, QIGONGOFTULSA.com. And we'll have all the information up there for you just as soon as we line it all up.
Yeah, absolutely. Along with the sign up for the newsletter, I'm going to make a Google form, a question form, which is going to allow you to ask questions. It's going to allow us to ask some questions, just to give an idea of, you know, your interest and what you want to really make sure you learn from this course, and we'll go from there. Thank you again for watching this video. My name is PJ. Here's Tom Bowman, Sifu Tom, and I appreciate you watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more videos just like this one, please make sure that you subscribe to my channel. And with that, I wish you guys all the best, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.